Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to explain what a principal is in the context of Microsoft SQL Server, both at the SQL Server and at a SQL database level. So what a principal is, I will be using a car here as an analogy. If someone has a driver's license, then that person gets the authorization to drive the car. That driver is principal in case of car. And in case of a SQL Server, if a user has authorization to access the server or database, that user is principal. So if a car is the SQL Server, then Mr. Bean is a principal here because he is driving the car, or you can say he is using the car to go from point A to point B. And in case of self-driven cars, the autopilot process is the driver or principal. Similarly, in case of a SQL Server, a user who is accessing the server to grab hold of resources inside it is a principal. There can be individual users or groups of users accessing the server, and all of them are principals here. And similar to a self-driven cars, many times those principals are the process or applications. The fundamental component of SQL Server is the security layer. If you can imagine SQL Server or a SQL database as a container, then any resources inside the container is a securable. Securables are the resources to which SQL Server database engine authorization system regulates access. For example, a table is a securable, a schema is a securable. In case of a SQL Server level principles, you can see that all the logins are principals there. If they are a SQL Server login or a Windows authentication login, both of them are principals here. And if you have a Windows authentication for a Windows group, that is also a principal here. As I explained before, a user or a group can be principal. And same principle apply to Active Directory as authentication. Also, roles. Roles are principals here. And a role can be a fixed role that comes with the SQL Server or a custom role that you can create on SQL Server. Database level principals. At database level, you can have a database user as a principal, database role, application role can be another principal. So if you go to the full picture, you can see the database level hierarchy over here. So principal are nothing but entities that can request SQL Server resources like any other component of SQL Server authentication model. Principals can be arranged in hierarchy. So you can see principals at Windows level, which is a group or a local user or a domain login. At a SQL Server level, as I explained before, it can be a login or a Windows group or a role, which can be fixed role or a custom role. At the SQL Server database level, it can be a database user, application user, or application role. So this is the full picture of database principals and securables, and I will be talking more about the database security, SQL Server security, and securables in next few videos. I hope you learned something from this video. Thank you.